Hi, everyone. My name is Olivia Roth, and I'm the Director of Online Academic Programs for Penn Engineering Online. Would love to welcome everyone to our admissions webinar today. The topic is best practices, and both newcomers and reapplicants are welcome. So we just finished a application cycle for our flagship MCIT Online program. And we will be opening another one soon, and that will be for fall 2022. So we thought this would be a good opportunity to share some tips and tricks with you kind of during the off season so that you can work on your application. If you're a reapplicant, that we can discuss some of those particular advice that we have. So just a few other housekeeping things before we get started. I wanted to say that we are not able to give specific feedback on folks' applications. So we can't, tell you exactly what you should do based on your particular background. But that being said, we are very willing to give general advice and general best practices. So that's what we'll be doing today. You are welcome to ask questions through the Zoom Q&A tool, and we will be keeping an eye on those questions. We're going to try to save some time at the end to address the most commonly asked questions that we didn't get a chance to cover during our presentation. Let's see. As well, we have an exciting announcement coming up next month for Penn Engineering Online. So in order to stay connected with us and make sure you don't miss the announcement, we'll give you information on how to sign up for our mailing list. You can also join one of our upcoming coffee chats. So I always love to tell people about coffee chats because they're a relatively new product that we're offering. They're sort of similar to the webinar that we'll be doing today, except even a little bit more informal. So in coffee chats, applicants can join us on screen. This is our admissions team, Erin Graves, Coley, and myself. And so we then have a chance to just have an informal chat where folks can ask questions and other applicants can benefit from hearing the answers. And sometimes we can even engage each other. The applicants can give each other advice too. So the next one is going to be in December, I believe December 15th. And the registration is on our website, so you can already go ahead and sign up for that. So today's session is being recorded. And if for some reason we cover this material too quickly, you can go back and reference it later. We will be adding it to our YouTube channel, as well as posting the recording on our social media channels, which are Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And then finally, I wanted to give a quick gerbil disclaimer, which is that I am filming at home today, and my kids have two gerbils who have been very active in the last little while, either chewing on cardboard or running on their wheels. So if you hear some funny sounds in the background, I apologize in advance. Maybe they've worn themselves out now, we'll see. But so like I said, the format for today is that we on the admissions team will rotate through and take turns kind of explaining some of the materials that folks need to work on, or topics that are the most common questions that we get. And then, like I said, at the end, we'll have a little bit of time for more specific questions from applicants. So I am going to pass it to Coley, I believe, and I'm going to let her introduce herself as well.
Hello, everyone. My name is Coley, and I work in marketing and admissions for MCIT Online, and we're just really happy you're here today. So we're going to dive right in talking about recommendation letters. So as you know, for applying to MCIT Online, you need to have a minimum of 2 recommendation letters. But we do really recommend that you include a third. This is for a couple of reasons. So one, a third recommender allows you to kind of have a safety net That way, if someone doesn't get it in by the deadline, or you kind of have some trouble getting in contact with someone, it kind of gives you that backup of having two people that could get theirs in. Also, having three is always a great option. So if you are applying, you need to make sure that your recommenders really know kind of what they are going to be responsible for. You want to give them time to fill out this application, and that they can go through and submit their letters. So to submit their letters, they need to do it through a portal. What you will do once the application opens, you will fill out their information and it'll send them an email. And in that email, they will be notified that they need to submit their letter of recommendation through this portal link. So, and this includes them writing an essay of about 500 to 1500 words. And they'll also have to fill out a brief little survey about their connection to you. So, this takes a little bit of time, and you want to make sure that you give them adequate time to do this well and that they're not rushed. So take the time beforehand to really think about, who could be a good recommender, who could be that person for you that will speak highly of you. And we really want someone who's not a peer or a friend. You really want it to be a supervisor or someone who has been a client who's evaluated your work. Or if you're still in school or have a good relationship with your professors or are recently out of school, having a professor is also another great option. But with that being said, it does not have to be someone who is in the tech community. It does not have to be someone that is directly involved in technology. We just really want them to be able to someone who evaluates you so that they can give you an adequate recommendation about your skills and character. The next thing we're going to talk about is your resume. So this is actually kind of oddly one of my favorite things to talk about with prospective applicants. This is an area that I feel like oftentimes is overlooked or not utilized to the best of its ability, because a lot of times we just have a resume kind of running and up to date for jobs, which is great. You should do that. But make sure that you're also kind of thinking about updating it for this program. We really want anything that's relevant, your functioning, your current job skills, what your experiences are in those jobs. And if you're kind of, recently out of school, if you have a background in volunteering and you have someone there who might be able to evaluate your work as a volunteer, that's also something that's acceptable. And you really want to make sure that if you have any experience in online learning, additional certificates, creating a category in your resume to speak about that and list those out is a really great option to use that space. So the next area of our application process that we're going to talk about is personal statements. And I'm going to pass that off to Erin.
Hello, everyone. My name is Erin. I'm the Admissions Operations Manager for Penn Engineering Online. I'm very happy that you all were able to join us today. I'm looking forward to all your questions that you have for us. As far as the personal statement goes, I really like this topic because this is your opportunity to really highlight your unique skills and qualities. What we're looking for is this to be formatted in an essay format. So you kind of want to think of it along the lines of this is you telling your journey. So where your academic journey was in the past, how you discovered MCIT Online specifically, and then what your goals are with this particular program and where you would like to see it lead you in the future. So it's really important that you really resonate on your statement of purpose in a sense and share the passion that you have to date of your interest in computer science. There's a list of prompts on the website that you really should hit all of those prompts in your personal statement. It's you want to think of this as, because we don't host interviews for this program, for the admission into the program. This is kind of like an interview process where these would be the questions that we may ask you in that type of setting. So I wouldn't overlook any of those prompts that are listed on the website, because it's really important information that we're looking to gain from you as a prospective student, and how each of those areas will fall into you and your success within the program. Specifically, things that you should definitely discuss outside of your passion for computer science is the time commitment aspect. This is a fairly new question that some reapplicants may not be familiar with, but this is an extremely rigorous program, and we try and be as transparent about how much time it can consume in your life, and we understand that people have outside commitments, whether it's work or family, whatever the case may be. We're looking to get an understanding of how you would be successful in the program and how you would set aside specific time week over week in order to ensure that you remain successful. We're here to ensure that our students are set up for success. So if we have an understanding of how you are going to figure this program into your life, we get a better idea of how we can better support our students. Something specifically I would like to call out is if you are currently enrolled in another degree program and you're planning on continuing with that outside degree program, it's important for you to also be transparent about that specifically and let us know how MCIT Online is going to figure into your plans for that as well. It's, I think, a good best practice for applicants to do once they've completed their personal statement and feel confident that they've shared the appropriate information. They've shared the unique skills and abilities that they think are relevant to the program. They've discussed maybe any online learning that they've completed, any relevant coursework that they've completed. You're feeling really confident that this speaks very closely to your passion and your motivation. A good rule of thumb is to have someone who knows you well to review this personal statement, just to get an understanding that from an outside perspective, they may be able to notice some things that maybe you didn't mention that may be relevant, or maybe there's some information in there that could be left out, doesn't necessarily play a relevant role within the program. Just to have a second set of eyes before submitting your personal statement so that you feel extremely confident that you're expressing, articulating very specifically what it is that you want to share with us. And then beyond that, if you are a reapplicant, the goal of the personal statement is to have a 1,000 to 1,500 word essay. That being said, if you have more that you want to share with us and you're going to go over those 1,500 words, it is okay to go beyond that. We're not going to stop reading your personal statement once we hit that 1,500 word mark. But if you are a reapplicant, you have an additional 250 word opportunity to explain what has changed between your first round of application and now. So we want to know what changes you've done in your personal or professional life, any coursework that you've completed. Maybe you took the GRE this round and are submitting your scores for that. Whatever has changed between the initial application and your current application, be sure that you highlight that as well, because that is information that we would like to know as far as reapplicants go, and what efforts that they've made to make themselves a better fit for this program. And on a different note, a little, oh, now Alabama's crying. So I was worried about my cat. Now my cat's chiming in. So please forgive her. As far as your academic journey goes and your unofficial transcripts, we do not require official transcripts for the application process. They can be unofficial transcripts. However, we do request that they are in PDF format. And there's specific information, very key information that we're looking for. It should be your full academic journey. So any coursework that you've completed at all universities, please supply those transcripts. If there's a T for transfer listed anywhere on that transcript that you do provide, and you don't supply us with the original transcript, we will have to follow up behind that and request those transcripts as well from the original institution. So being transparent and supplying all that information at the beginning saves a lot of follow-up on our end in order to gain a full picture of your academic history. Outside of that, we want to make sure that we can read every course that you've completed. So we'll want to know the name of the course that you've completed. We'll want to know the credit hours that you've earned and then the grade that you earned. So please make sure when you are uploading your PDF of your transcript that all of that is legible. If it's blurry, please try and get a better scan of that as well. We do not accept diplomas in lieu of transcripts. We do want to see the coursework that you've completed and the grades that you've earned. If your transcripts are not in English, please translate those for us. Otherwise, we will have to request you send translated transcripts. We recommend you can use WES, World Education Services, as a means to validate your transcripts as well. And I believe that they will supply those translated versions for you. And then outside of that, if it's on a scale other than the 4.0 grading scale, if it's not translated through WES or some other outside organization where it translates to that 4.0 scale, please provide documentation that indicates the original grading scale from your institution so we can evaluate that ourselves. And we do understand that some applicants are still in the process of completing degrees, and that's okay. If you are completing a program where you have not quite yet graduated, that is okay. You can supply us with your academic records to date. But if you have completed a degree, it would be beneficial to provide the transcripts that actually list the degree that you earned and the date that that was conferred. And so now I'm going to pass this back to Olivia, who will discuss further how to better prepare yourself for your application.
Thanks, Erin. Yes, and I think I'm going to change the order of what I was going to talk about a little bit on the fly. So what I want to talk about is underqualification and overqualification. So applicants need to have a bachelor's degree in order to apply. And I've seen a couple of different questions about, whether somebody's particular degree would be eligible or not. So what I would suggest if you are unsure whether your degree meets the criteria is to actually send us an email so that we can look into your situation. So the school, the type of degree, all of that stuff. Typically, if the undergraduate degree is accredited, then it's fine. So I would guess in most cases it will be eligible. But if one of my team members could just put our email address in the chat really quickly. We have an awesome team, as you see, and they are very good at getting back to people with specifics about that. So another situation might be, let's say, I think somebody put in a question about that they had a relatively low GPA for their undergraduate degree. And so would they be qualified? I would say that the committee definitely looks at GPA. And if you are concerned that your GPA from undergrad, let's just say, is low, then you can still apply. And what you would want to do is, within your personal statement, tell your story. So maybe what you want to do is specifically address the low GPA in your personal statement. You could say, when I was in college a long time ago, or whatever it is, last year, I got low grades in some of my classes, and this is why. I was working at the same time. I was not really that interested in the subject matter. I was young and wanted to go to parties all the time. Whatever it was, we want to, if you have an explanation for why those grades are lower, that helps us understand that it wasn't necessarily due to aptitude. And then what you would also want to do is demonstrate some more current or some additional measurable items that will sort of offset the undergraduate GPA. So there are a lot of different ways to do this. One option would be to take the GRE or the GMAT. another option would be to take a math class. And I think there was a question about which type of math and where. I mean, I guess probably the type of math class that would get the most weight would be a 4-credit situation. So typically that would be like perhaps at a local community college. It could even be online at a community college, so you get some additional online experience as well. So the MCIT program has 6 core courses, and 2 out of the 6 core courses are highly mathematical. And so I think probably the 3 most obvious types of math courses to choose would be algebra, calculus, or discrete math. Discrete math is pretty exactly what you're going to be doing once you get into the program. But really, if you've taken any math classes, even if they're older, we will notice that and give you credit for it, so to speak. So another thing you could do would be to take a math class or a computer science oriented class online, like on Coursera, Udemy, places like that. And again, it also shows that that you have some online experience and that you really are passionate about the degree. You know, you listened to our advice and you tried some coursework that is very relevant to this degree, and hopefully you enjoyed it. I mean, I think that can be a really good thing to do anyway if you're if you haven't had a lot of exposure to computer science, you know, before you delve into this very rigorous program, to have a little bit of exposure beforehand can help your self-knowledge in terms of like, you know, is this something I want to pursue or not? So theoretically, a person could also be overqualified. And the way we define overqualified for the most part is if you could waive out or test out of more than 2 of the core courses. So we have our core courses listed on our website, and you can take a look at those. I believe one of the questions was if someone has taken 2 programming language courses, would that be considered overqualified? The question is written a little vaguely, but based on the way it's written, I would say no, that would not be considered overqualified for a couple reasons. One, it's only 2 classes. You have to have more than 2 classes waived to be overqualified. And the second reason is because learning a particular coding language doesn't necessarily mean that you understand all of the underlying fundamentals of how it works. So we understand that sometimes people have exposure to programming languages, you know, maybe that's what piqued their interest in the first place. And that typically does not, we do not consider that to be overqualified. There's also an interesting question in the Q&A about if you are already a software developer, whether that would be considered overqualified. I would say in that situation, we would particularly need to see in a personal statement the story from you as to why you feel this degree will benefit you versus a full-on master's, for example, like a traditional master's of science and computer science that does require a CS undergrad. You know, sometimes folks have become a software developer, but they never got really trained on the fundamentals and formally, and they would like that formal education. And so if that's the case for you, I'd say definitely explain that clearly in your personal statement so the committee understands your motivation behind pursuing this degree. Okay, let me just pause for a second and you can listen to my gerbils while I check my notes, make sure I didn't miss anything on this. Yeah. So lastly, I will just speak a little to some general things that you can do to improve your application. Some of this may be a little bit redundant from what I've said or others on our team have said before. But one thing that you can do is to show your experience with online education. So the reason this is important is because, for example, if somebody has been out of school for a long time and they are coming into our program, there's a lot of things to acclimate to all at once at the beginning. The subject matter is new. The fact that it's online can be new for some people. There are a lot of new tools, online tools to learn and get accustomed to. Just that whole experience of being bad at something again. Many of our students are overachievers and sort of going back to the beginning of remembering what that feels like. All of those things can be very intense. And so if somebody has, we prefer if people have had a little bit of exposure to online learning beforehand for that reason. And then also because it might not necessarily fit your learning style. And so you can give it a try and see if it works for you or not. So what I would suggest is on your resume and in your personal statement, make sure to particularly highlight anything that was online. So this could be, you know, you're part of your bachelor's degree, or perhaps you have another master's degree that were done online or partially online. Definitely make a note of that. You can also mention it in your personal statement. Sometimes even at work, people have taken online trainings or significant online tests. I think those are relevant. And then finally, there's a lot of non-credit content that's out there in the world. And we would love to know, you know, what of those things that you have sampled and tried. As you may know, Penn Engineering has a couple of online, a couple of non-credit online offerings. The ones I'm thinking of are also on Coursera's website. And those we, of course, very much recommend for a lot of reasons. So one is because they were made by us, so they're kind of like the style that the degree program will be in. So that, again, you can assess for yourself whether this particular program and this style is something that you like. The first course I want to mention is called Computational Thinking for Problem Solving. And it's a very awesome way to get started if you have no previous exposure to programming or to computer science. And it really walks you through step by step the ways that you can train yourself to think more like a computer. You have to be able to communicate in a computer's language in order to tell the computer what to do. And so it sort of speaks in the language of logic. And I think by the end, you will have programmed a very simple Python program. And then we also have an entire specialization on Coursera called Introduction to Java and Python. And so it's a series of 4 courses. I believe 2 of them are a little more focused on Python, 2 of them are more focused on Java. And those courses are actually taught by an instructor who teaches that same class for us in our degree program. So the assignments in the non-credit version that's available to the public are a little bit lighter than maybe a lot lighter than the ones that occur in the actual degree program. But the video content, some of it is exactly the same, and there's more in the degree version. But again, you get to see the exact style, in fact, the exact instructor that you would be taking your first class with in the degree program. So when the admissions committee sees that a person has, taken one or more of these classes, again, these classes are extremely relevant, and that's a great sign that, like, wow, this person really took the time to do research on our program, they're familiar with our program, they have experience with some of this content. But really, like I said, nearly any kind of online experience that you have will be relevant and will be viewed positively by the committee. So I think that might be what I wanted to say about those topics. And Aaron and Coley can jump in if I missed anything. So we can also quickly go through the questions here in the Q&A to see what y'all are asking. There's quite a few questions here, so let's just see if we can find one that will be relevant to the group. Okay, here's a question that says, is the degree equivalent to the on-campus Master in Computer Science degree? So Penn has two different types of computer science credentials at the graduate level. One is MCIT, which is a Master of Computer and Information Technology that's offered on campus and online. And there's also an on-campus program called a Master of Science in Computer Science. So it's more of a traditional MSc, as I mentioned. Between the MCIT Online and MCIT on-campus degrees, they are the same degrees as each other. It's the same curriculum, many of the same electives, most of the same professors are teaching the courses. And the difference is how the content is presented to you because when you're in the classroom, you have one kind of style. And when we're creating content for our online experience, all of the lectures are pre-recorded. And so the way the faculty approaches that material, the way the faculty member organizes the material may be different. All of the learning objectives are the same. And so when MCIT Online students graduate, they receive the same diploma as the on-campus students. The diploma does not mention online anywhere on it. It's the same degree. And so MCIT on campus started, I believe, around 2001. And so there's quite a few graduates out in the world, and we brought it online in 2019. So we're just starting to have graduates for MCIT Online. And what we're seeing is that the outcomes for the online students are very similar, if not the same, as what we see for the on-campus students. So again, if Aaron or Coley, if you could paste our most recent outcomes report in the chat, then folks can take a look at that. So what else did I want to say about this? Thank you. Oh, the master. So what's the difference between the MCIT credential and the Master of Science in Computer Science? The difference is that the people we admit have different backgrounds for the different programs. So let's talk about the traditional on-campus MSc degree. That degree is for people who have an undergraduate degree in computer science, so a 3 to 4 year degree where they studied computer science and maybe a few other things. So they get to the master's degree, and the curriculum consists of about 4 core courses, and they have about then 6 electives with which they can explore some of the more advanced concepts. In MCIT, the students do not have an undergrad in computer science. So the core courses are, there are 6 of them instead of 4. And during those 6 courses, the curriculum is designed to be relatively accelerated. This is one of the reasons why we describe the program as rigorous. And essentially, one thing I like to say is, as you can imagine, if there's 6 courses, there's not necessarily going to be time to go slowly and explain every concept that you might learn if you were doing an undergraduate in this area. However, again, the curriculum is over 20 years old and it has been refined and it has been specially crafted so that as students make their way through, by the time they get through the 6 core courses, they can, it's actually really amazing how it happens. A lot of the concepts fall into place retroactively. Students have such a thorough understanding of the foundations of computer science that they can easily teach themselves any, miscellaneous concept, or they can teach themselves a programming language that they need to know very easily. And so it's to the point where on campus, where we have MCIT and the MSc, MCIT students join in with the MSc students in their same elective classrooms. So both students are taking electives together, and the MCIT students completely hold their own. In fact, they go on to get, again, very similar jobs to to what the MSc students get. So in my opinion, the MCIT program is an awesome deal. And I even think, in a completely biased way, that employers might be even better off with an MCIT grad than an MSc. And the reason is because MCIT graduates have more variety in their background and they're more interdisciplinary. We have students who were, philosophy undergraduate majors or English majors. We have some who were in other fields of engineering as well, or math or business, but also architecture and also, food sciences and almost anything you can think of. And so that person now has that amazing undergraduate experience and maybe like that side of the brain that goes with that kind of thinking, and that they also have this technical expertise. And so I think that the outcome is amazing to behold. And I think also that the world is becoming more and more interdisciplinary anyways. So I hope that answers your question. Some people feel really strongly about getting an MSc, and that's fine. This is a different credential, but again, for the most part, the outcomes are the same. I guess one other difference is that MCIT does not have a research component to it. So if you were going to be pursuing a PhD, perhaps a more traditional MSc might be a better route. That being said, we have had some MCIT students who pursued research on their own to supplement the program and went on to PhD programs as well. Okay, I'm going to let somebody else have a turn talking. So let's take a look and see what other questions we can answer from the Q&A here. Okay, so Aaron or Coley, could you answer this question for us? It says, if by the time of my application, I haven't finished the math classes at a community college, but will be before the school starts, will that count? And how should I show it on my application? Aaron, do you want to take that?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, that's a little tricky. So if you're taking coursework for credit and you want to supply the transcripts, you would have to complete that in order to supply the transcript. What we have seen in the past is, and recommended in the past, is that if you are on track to completing that particular course or completing, I think I stated this earlier, completing a degree, show your academic progress to date. So if you want that to be reviewed with your application, then you would need to screenshot and upload that as a PDF version to your application in, I guess, as a transcript, or you can email that to us and we can always add that to your application.
Thank you, Aaron. Okay, Aaron, I'm going to give you another one. If I had my GRE scores sent before and I no longer want them to be considered, how should I remove them from my application? I'm giving you
you-
some hard ones.
Yeah, this is a tricky one. If you have previously submitted GRE scores to Penn, to UPenn, they are stored in our database. So even if you did not officially submit your scores in the application that you submit, they will still be attached to your name and your personal information. I don't know for certain that you, unless it lapses beyond, I believe, maybe 10 years, I think they're still reportable or we still have access to them for up to 10 years. I don't, to my knowledge, believe that you can unlink those. Olivia,
Right,
do you?
I don't think you can unlink them, but I think the easiest thing to do would that be for them to send us an email. And that way it'll get to Erin and she can make a note in our
Yeah.
application that you would prefer for this score not to be considered. And we will make sure that that happens.
Yes, and the only way, if let's say that you did previously submit GRE scores and you don't want them to reviewed, a way to follow up on that, just to ensure whether or not they did actually sync to your application, is to look at your checklist. And if official scores along the line of you submitting your application were generated, then it would show on your checklist that you had submitted official scores. And then that's when you would want to follow up with us and let us know that you did not want those taken into account with your application.
Here's another tough one. Would a high GRE quant score or a good grade from a community college math class be more beneficial? So both of those things are awesome. I can't say for sure which would be more beneficial because it may depend on a person's particular situation. One thing I will say is that the GRE is a big commitment. I kind of feel like maybe it should be a last resort for people. If you have a strong application, you hopefully do not need the GRE, just because that is such a big commitment. So I would say to give it a try with other means first, unless you're really set on taking it for some reason. Okay, let's see what other questions we have here. We're not going to comment on specific scores. So there are a couple questions, like exactly what kind of score should I look for? We review our applications holistically. So, so we couldn't give a specific number in that one. Oh, here's a cool question. How many students are there usually in the program? Do we get a chance to know them, or is it more like a totally independent self-study program with help and guidance by instructors only? So there's a couple different questions in here. One of them is how many students are there usually in the program? So currently we have about 1,300 students in the program. And so that's from the beginning of time, 1,300 that are active. However, that would be total across the whole program. So you'd have to divide that out to get the actual number for each particular course. Do we get a chance to know them, or is it totally self-study? So let me give you a quick speech about what it's like to be in the program. So I think one thing we found is that across online learning, there are a lot of different styles of online learning, right? So there might be non-credit MOOCs where people are all sort of doing the content on their own pace, completely asynchronously, or there could be, some kind of situation where the faculty member lectures live. So let me tell you how it is for MCIT Online. The way it is the classes follow semesters. So there are 3 semesters every year: fall, spring, and summer. Fall and spring are required and summer is optional. But almost all of our courses are offered in the summer, I would say, with the exception of some electives, but all of our core courses are offered in the summer except for the very first one. So students need to follow the general calendar for that semester. So let's say you signed up for a course and the semester is about to begin. On the day that the course opens, you will immediately have access to all of the pre-recorded lectures for the entire semester. What will also be available is the first assignment. So every course typically has an assignment that's due every week or every other week. And so let's say this is an assignment that's due every other week. So in 2 weeks, you'll have your first assignment that's due. So in those 2 weeks, whenever it works for your schedule, you can watch the videos that go along with that week's work. You can also start on the assignment whenever it works for you within that amount of time. There are then also some live sessions offered that are optional. So usually every week there are a few recitation sections that are offered. So that might be like a live session where a teaching assistant gives some examples of content that they can go through in real time and solve while folks can ask questions. Those are then recorded, and if anyone can't attend, they can watch them again on their own schedule. If it doesn't work because of time zone issues, that mechanism is in place. The instructor will do typically once a week a live session as well, whether it might be open office hours or a recitation of some kind. And again, those are recorded. They're all optional. As well, there's typically private office hours staffed by the teaching assistants that students can sign up for. And there's a couple other different ways to communicate. Each course has its own discussion board. And so students can post questions in the discussion board. Again, the professor and the course staff, teaching assistants will respond as promptly as they can, certainly within 24 hours, if not way shorter than that. And again, questions about the course can go back and forth on the discussion board. And then finally, we also have a Slack workspace for the students. And so Slack is kind of a chat tool that is one of the ways that we promote community among the students. So the professors are not in the Slack channel. This is just for student to student communication. So for example, there's a community channel, which everyone automatically, all the students have access to in the beginning. All the active students and alumni are in this channel. And there's really a nice culture of sharing, of generosity, of letting people know about cool jobs that are coming up, asking questions about taking this class with this class. Is this a good combination? What do people recommend? And then my team also creates dedicated Slack channels devoted to each individual course that's occurring that semester, so that you can go in and that's a place more to like form study groups related to that course, or perhaps commiserate about how it's going, things like that. And then what's really cool is because it's student-led, there are a lot of different channels that are created organically by the students themselves. So in terms of community, it's kind of about like how much you want to get out of it. I think some folks sign up for the online degree program, they're not really expecting much of a community experience, but anyone who wants it will certainly find it. We've had so many students tell about like becoming friends really with other people just by Slack. Slack is integrated with Zoom. You can quickly jump on a Zoom call with somebody if you want to chat about something. I could go on and on about our Slack workspace because it's really a kind of a magical place. We have a really funny humor channel. There's a really heartwarming support channel. There's a pets channel. There's a lot of channels dedicated to geography so that people can theoretically meet up in real life, MCIT Bay Area, MCIT Hong Kong, Australia, you name it. And if it's not there, you can come on in and create it and invite people to it yourself. So I hope that gives you a little bit more of a sense of how much interaction you would get with the instructor, how much you would interact with other students. There are some group projects within the curriculum. So students either get paired up or they get to choose who they work with. And again, even you can, try to find somebody who's in your own time zone, or you can say, you know what, we'll just factor in the 6-hour difference and work asynchronously, and then pick a few times that work for both of us, so we can zoom it out, and that usually works quite well. Okay, what other questions do we have here? Oh, here we go. Let's see. Besides the obvious degree differences, how would you say the material of the MCIT program differs from a coding boot camp? So I spoke a little bit about this before, but a coding boot camp will teach you one particular programming language, and it will do so very quickly. So that is a great option. And for some people, that is the right option. So I think it's a really important thought exercise to do, because if that's something that is going to meet your needs, then I would say go forth and do that. With the MCIT degree, it's a master's degree in computer science. So like I said, when you finish the core courses, you have such a thorough understanding of the foundations of computer science that you can teach yourself any programming language. Now, again, I consider that a superpower because technology changes very quickly. And what programming language might be hot 1 minute is like so 2021 the next minute. So I think that's kind of the decision to make, right? MCIT degree is a big investment of time and effort and some money. So if you feel that what you really want and need in your career is that the superpower that I mentioned, then please do apply. And if that's way beyond what you actually need, then there are a ton of resources that might be a better fit in that sense. Okay, let's see. So Holy says, I think we need to address that you need an accredited bachelor's degree. So accredited bachelor's degree, I used to think that was a relatively straightforward thing to say, and now I've learned that there's all kinds of different nuances to it. So I think what I would say about that, again, is that if you have any doubts about whether your degree is eligible, just to go on ahead and send us your materials to our email address so that we can evaluate them. We really don't mind doing it. We would love to do it beforehand so that you can be sure and confident that you are eligible. If you apply and then we find a problem, we're gonna reach out and let you know. So either way, it's probably best to go ahead and get that addressed first thing. Okay, let's see. What else do we want to talk about? I know there's so many questions and we have 5 minutes left, which is why we like to plug some of our other products like coffee chats, and the FAQ on our website is very substantial. Can you become a TA in the online MCIT program? I'm so glad you asked that, anonymous attendee. That is something I was going to address before and I forgot. Yes, so right now, because of federal regulations, the stipulation is that folks need to be physically located in the United States in order to be a TA or a teaching assistant for our program. But we welcome and we are delighted for MCIT Online students to apply for those jobs once they've finished a class and done well in it. MCIT Online students are our best TAs. And just to go back to one of the other questions that was asked, it's also a nice way to make sort of a behind the scenes connection with the instructor. And what many TAs have said too is that it helps you, understand the material even better when you need to make sure that you understand something well enough to teach it to somebody else. It kind of forces your hand, right? And I've even seen students say, this is a class that I liked. I felt a little unsure about it in the end. So I went ahead and challenged myself by signing up to be a TA. And that by the time I got to the end of the class, I now feel so confident and so empowered in this particular topic. So that's really exciting to see. So our TA to student ratio, I think, is about 1 to 20. Correct me if I'm wrong, Coley. It's I think it's even lower than that in some of our classes. And so it's a very 1 to 25, she says. Okay. It's a number that you will not see in many other online programs, I'll say. And so that's one thing that we're very proud of. Okay. Let's see. Oh, here's a question about internships. I think this is going to be our last question. So MCIT Online students have access to some really great career services. While we do not place students in internships, we have an associate director of professional development and networking that is incredible. She creates a ton of extremely relevant and helpful content for MCIT Online students, whether that's how to search for an internship, what courses might you want to have under your belt before you start looking for an internship. For some of our students, internships are not relevant because of where they are in their career or their goals. And for some, they are. So once students have finished the core courses, they are also eligible to have one-on-one sessions with Emily Perry, the person I was referring to before. And she organizes an online career fair every year for students. She organizes a side project competition every year to give folks kind of a way outside of the curriculum to collaborate with each other and create projects that will benefit their portfolio when they're out on the job market. And this is a lifetime guarantee. I want to say it's a lifetime service that we provide. So even after MCIT Online students graduate, they can reach out to Emily after that as well for career advice. So with that, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up. Thank you so much for attending our webinar today. And here are a few follow-up items, ways that you can connect with us once this live event is over and you're just can't get enough of our faces. There's a ton of videos on YouTube, which you can find on our website of previous admissions webinars. Some of them have particular themes, kind of like today. So we have an extremely robust FAQ database. Was I supposed to do the wrap up or is somebody else supposed to do it? I don't want to deprive anyone. I think it's me. Okay, you can sign up for our mailing list, which is on the Coursera's website. And again, that will ensure that you don't miss any announcements, including the exciting one that's coming up next month. Hint, hint. It's not really a hint. I didn't give you any clues about what it is, except that it's exciting. And if, as of today, you did not still get your question answered, you can always email us at online-admissions@cs.upenn.edu. So have a wonderful remainder of your day. And thanks again for attending today.